Hi there, I am digital anchor Brandi Smith. We are bringing you some breaking news, the identities of all 8 victims killed at this weekend's Astroworld Festival at the Travis Scott Show Friday night. They have now been identified. Again, there are 8. The youngest victim is 14 years old, so I want to go through and share what we know about each one of these victims. So young, such young lives cut short. Over the coming days, we anticipate we will learn much more about each of them. But I'm going to start with 14-year-old John Hilgert. We don't have a photo of him at this time. He was a 9th grade student from Memorial High School, according to Spring Branch ISD. Today, the school put up green ribbons around campus. That was Hilgert's favorite color. Students were wearing green. The district is planning a special memorial for him last night. They held a memorial for him. We have a reporter at Memorial High School, and you'll hear much more about John, students who went to school with him, coming up on KHOU 11 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10. Next, Brianna Rodriguez. She was 16 years old. She was a junior at Heights High School. According to her family's GoFundMe page that's set up, dancing was her passion, and we know she performed with the Heights High School dance team. Reporter Michelle Choi spent the morning at Heights High. She said she saw a lot of pink ribbons. She was talking to some students there, so again, we'll have much more coverage about Brianna Rodriguez later tonight. Jacob Juranek was at the festival with his best friend, who he'd known since elementary school. He is 20. Now, initially, he was reported to be 21, but we now know he was 20. He was a Naperville native in Illinois. He attended Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. He was studying advertising and journalism. He designed posters and social media banners for athletics at SIU. The friend he was there with was 21-year-old Franco Patino. He was a student at the University of Dayton, a senior, also from Naperville. He majored in mechanical engineering and minored in human movement biomechanics. Our sister station, CBS Chicago, talked to friends, those who knew Franco Patino and Jacob Juranek. We have more information about these 2 gentlemen on KHOU.com. We expect we'll learn more about 21-year-old Axel Acosta at a press conference around 2:30 this afternoon. His family is being represented by attorney Tony Busby. At this time, Busby has asked that his family be given privacy. What we know is that he had just turned 21 and was from Washington. Again, there is a press conference this afternoon at 2:30, and we will carry that live as well, hopefully learning a little more about him. Rudy Pena was a 23-year-old college student from Laredo. Came to Houston for the concert with a bunch of friends who describe him as a people person. They say he just introduced people to each other. He is one of 3 who have verified GoFundMes set up, and we have those links in the KHOU.com article as well. Now, one of the names we just confirmed is Madison Dubisky. So we're in the process of learning more about her. What we do know is she attended Cy-Fair High School. She was a cheerleader there, and we're working to learn more details about who she was and her life from those who knew and loved her. And finally, Danish Beg is the oldest victim. He was 27. He would have turned 28 next week. He's from North Texas. His family says he was trying to protect his fiancée from being trampled when he was fatally hurt during the concert. He was laid to rest yesterday in Colleyville, where he was from. I want to show you that full list again. 8 young lives lost. There are still a lot of questions about what happened, about what caused their deaths, about how 300 people were hurt, according to Houston's police chief and fire chief. At last check, 4 people were still in the hospital, at least one in critical condition. We are working today to get updates and to answer so many of the questions you guys have asked via social media, email. We understand there's a lot of frustration and a lot of confusion. Throughout the day, I would just encourage you to check back on social media, and then of course we will have those updates at 4, 5, 6, and 10 on air. I'm going to pop over to our Facebook page right now and see if I can answer any questions. Someone asked what's going to happen to Live Nation. So in case you don't know, Live Nation was the promoter, the organizer of the event. Right now, investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski is pouring through a 56-page document that was outlined before the event, every protocol that was in place in case there was an event. I mean, everything from fires to hurricanes to earthquakes. So he is working on that and also consulting with a national crowd expert to see how that aligns with what other festivals and organizations have done. Just scrolling through. Henry Martinez asked what happened. We don't have a really clear answer right now beyond what Houston police and fire chiefs, the mayor and county judge have said, and that was that at some point at least 2 points during Travis Scott's concert on Friday night, there was a crowd surge, which resulted in some people getting crushed, and one of the results of crowd surge is often asphyxiation. So a lot of people who were there report seeing people lying on the ground. Fire Chief Sam Pena said there were 11 cardiac arrests. That just means hearts stopped, but they were able to revive some of those victims. And at this point, there are 8 victims who passed at the concert. 25 more were taken to the hospital, and as of Saturday, all but 4 were discharged. And we know one of those was in critical condition. That is the 10-year-old who was taken to the hospital. Someone mentions a lawsuit. I believe there are now 5 as of last check this morning. I think it's safe to say we will see more. People named in it include Live Nation, Travis Scott, even Drake. There's also a petition to remove Travis Scott from lineups of upcoming festivals. We have, again, information about that on KHOU.com. Sophia says, so young and beautiful and full of life. We are talking about incredibly young victims. And that's why on KHOU's side, we really took our time to confirm the identities, because you are talking about children. John Hilgert was 14. Brianna Rodriguez was 16. Those are children. And we wanted to make sure we had all the information before we released those names. Judge Lena Hidalgo, just about maybe 40 minutes ago, confirmed all of their identities. Stacy writes, just ridiculous. This did not have to happen. And that's why there is an investigation underway. Judge Lena Hidalgo called for a multi-agency investigation looking at what happened, looking at if the protocols in place weren't followed, or if they weren't enough, if there was some sort of lapse, how the system failed, and how it could ever be prevented from happening again. Delia asks, were these people stomped on, injected? Nobody saw and stopped it. We don't know cause of death at this time, and one of the things that Chief Pena and Chief Finner repeated on Saturday was that as far as toxicology, that's going to take some time to come back. There was a report, and only a report, it hadn't been confirmed, they were looking into it, that a security officer felt a prick in the neck, passed out, and then Chief Pena said that Narcan had been used, in his words, many times to revive folks that night. But again, we don't have the cause of death. We don't know. People who were in the crowd, stuck in that crowd surge, described like a 15-pound weight on their chest, hard to breathe. We talked to an ICU nurse who was there. You can read the interview with her, watch it on KHOU.com as well, about she lost consciousness because she just couldn't breathe. And when she came to, she saw that other people were in way worse shape, and she jumped in to help as best she could. Someone asked why people didn't stop to help. There are multiple videos of people climbing onto production platforms, trying to alert the cameramen. At one point, a section of the crowd started chanting, "Stop the show." But we're talking about a crowd of 50,000 people. So I want to give you some context. I was there. I left at about 9:40, and we now know that crew there realized there was an issue about 9:37. So when they were radioing internally, not publicly, internally, that there was a problem, I walked away from a show trying to beat the crowd, thinking that I had just seen a great concert. There was I had no clue that a couple hundred feet in front of me, that people were being crushed. And where I was standing, there was plenty of space. There was no pushing or shoving. So the comparison I want to give you is for kind of a visual. Imagine, okay, Minute Maid Park holds about 40,000. We're talking about 50,000 in this crowd. So fill Minute Maid Park like it was at the World Series, but then flatten it, because we were in a parking lot. There was no elevation. I'm 5'2". The only way I was able to see the stage was holding my phone up over the crowd. You just couldn't see that far ahead. And as far as hearing, like the chants, it was loud, booming loud, plus there were fireworks. I couldn't hear people even a couple of feet over from me, let alone in a section that was a good distance from me. I have shared some of those videos. I saved them from that night. They're in my Instagram stories. We've also done a story about the social media component. That's on KHOU.com. So you can kind of see where and when people stepped up to help. Delia says this place shouldn't have been that packed. It doesn't matter if it was outside. This is another interesting point, because Sam Pena made the point on Saturday, because of the permitting, because of the rules in the city, actually max capacity was 200,000. As I'm answering your questions, I think I'm going to bring it back here. I will share that image again, but Sam Pena said max capacity for the venue was 200,000. There was a huge footprint. If you're familiar at all with NRG and Energy Park, the park itself is 350 acres. Hard for me to say how much the festival took up, but when fans entered, you had to come in through the blue lot right off Kirby, that the main parking entrance, walk down a bit, kind of a maze, then you rounded a corner, That's where you got your vaccination card or negative COVID test check. There was also a rapid test site right there. Then you walked another ways until you met up with the path that takes you up over the pedestrian bridge over Kirby. You drop back down. That's I believe the green lot. That's where security was. So that's where you went through the gates, and then beyond that, kind of the iconic Travis head that you could walk through, that's where that was. And then you had to go even farther to get into the concert itself. So you cross that little intersection that's right there into the yellow lot. And the concert encompassed both yellow lot areas. There were 2 stages, 30 carnival rides and games. Every food truck I have ever seen around Houston was there. There were different isolated experiences. So I think that's why max capacity was so high. It was just a huge, huge footprint at NRG Park. Cam Ann brings up the stampede through the VIP entrance that happened about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And a lot of people are pointing to that as an indication that some of the fans were unruly and that things should have been shut down or more security should have been brought in at that point. I don't have let me double check the numbers, because we did have totals for the number of officers and there we go. According to Mayor Sylvester Turner and Houston Police Chief Troy Finner, 528 HPD officers were on site, as well as 750 Live Nation security officers. But we are talking about a crowd of 50,000. Hopping back over to see if there are any more questions. Nathan asked about the 10-year-old. As far as we know, that 10-year-old is in critical condition. He is one of 4 still hospitalized, and we are trying to get an update on him today. But if there's, the death toll has not grown. It's still at 8. I have seen some confusion online, people saying that it is 11. That was the number of cardiac arrests reported on scene, and Fire Chief Sam Pena said they were able to revive several of those victims. So cardiac arrest is a pretty generic explanation. It just means your heart stopped. Everyone, when they die, suffers cardiac arrest, and some are able to be revived. So happy to say that in this case, at least 3 were. Lily Davis says nobody stopped on stage. The staff protocols weren't followed. Again, we're working to find out what those protocols were, but a crowd expert from Britain, I'm just working on a piece about crowd surge, says that at any large event like this, you should have crowd spotters with noise canceling headsets on who can watch, see what's going on, pinpoint trouble spots, and let the larger production crew know if something is happening. And I was far enough back, it's hard for me to say if there was anyone in that role at this show. Again, that's something investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski is looking into for later today. Jaime says, I saw a toddler in the crowd on TikTok. You know, when I was walking out, I was there all day. I got there just before 11, spent the day covering the festival itself. And, you know, it was older teens to like in the 20s crowd. It wasn't until I was walking out that I saw a very young kid there and just thought to myself, whoa, I love concerts, love festivals, been to dozens. But that stood out to me as I was walking out, this kid who was up way past his bedtime. Michelle says her son was going to go. She told him not to, that she had a bad feeling. Chelsea says, what was the capacity for the actual stage area? Because it was all one giant outdoor venue, it was the same. There could have been 200,000 there. The Chiefs, I can't remember if it was Pena or Finner, did say, I think it was Pena, did say that they tried to mitigate that by having 2 stages. Now, on Saturday, there were slated to be performers on both all day, but on Friday, all of the other performers before Travis performed on the Thrill stage, and then he was at the Chill stage. His performance was simulcast on the Thrill stage, but the crowd was all gathered around that one stage. Katie says other outlets said he sold 100,000 tickets months ago to this show. That's what we're trying to confirm as well. So the crowd number from the city and county is 50,000. So we are working today to figure out exactly how many tickets were sold and how many people may have been there during the show. Grisella says everyone who was pushing in the entrance should have been returned. There were 23 trespassing arrests, only 25 arrests the whole of Friday. 23 were for trespassing, 1 was for possession of marijuana, and 1 was for public intoxication. Stacy says we should teach CPR every year in school. We discussed that in our morning editorial meeting, maybe doing something on CPR, because those who could jump in to help did. The ICU nurse says, she worked on several different people trying to bring them back. Sophia asks, why didn't the camera guy send a message? He ignored. Shouldn't safety be the priority? So I suspect, Sophia, that you're referring to multiple videos of the woman we now know as Texas A&M student Sienna crawling up to a production platform and yelling at the cameraman that there are people are dying in the crowd, and the camera guy kind of brushes her off. We don't have an answer for why he didn't respond, but that is something that certainly will be a part of the investigation. There are so many different videos. I highlighted her efforts and some of those videos in a story I did Saturday about social media, documenting the calls for help, the pleas for help in the crowd. Javier asked if there was an age restriction. Not that I'm aware of. John asked if there are any criminal legal consequences. That's, again, something that'll be determined by the investigation. You have Mayor Turner, County Judge Lena Hidalgo, Fire Chief Sam Pena, and Police Chief Troy Finner, all promising an investigation into what happened. I did want to, for those who are joining in now, I do want to bring back this image and review what we know now about the 8 victims killed at Astroworld Friday night. We do not have a photo for John Hilgert, but he was the youngest victim. He was 14 years old. freshmen at Memorial High School. And today there are green ribbons all over the school. Students are wearing green. I just shared a video from one of our reporters from the campus. Tweeted it if you want to jump over there. Brianna Rodriguez was 16. The GoFundMe, the verified GoFundMe set up for her, says that dancing was her passion, and we know she danced for Heights High School. We had a reporter there as well. I tweeted that video as well. I think we have it on the main KHOU account too. Now, the two gentlemen you see up in the top right corner, Jacob Juranek and Franco Patino, they were best friends. They grew up together, had known each other since elementary school, and had traveled from Illinois. They grew up in Naperville. They came down from Illinois to attend the festival together. They were 20 and 21. We're expecting to learn more about Axel Acosta this afternoon, here in about 2 hours, when the attorney representing his family holds a press conference. He's from Washington, and he was 21 years old. Madison Dubisky is one of the last names we confirmed. We are working to learn more about her, but we do know she graduated from Cypher High School. She was a cheerleader there, and she was 23 years old. Rudy Pena was also 23. He was a college student from Laredo who came to the festival with a group of friends. And Donish Baig is from North Texas, from Colleyville. He would have turned 28 next week, according to his family, and his brother says he died trying to protect his fiancée from being trampled. We are going to have comprehensive, in-depth coverage of what happened at Astroworld all throughout the day here on social media, and of course on air at 4, 5, 6, and 10, hoping to learn more about these young people's lives that were just cut short.